All right. Thank you, Clement. I appreciate the warm introduction. Welcome, everybody. I see a lot of familiar names. I'm glad to see everyone back. Hopefully, you guys got a lot of great value out of our webinar last week. For those of you who are just attending today for the first time, you missed last week. I'd like to say welcome to our series on AI and remodeling. Our focus today is going to be on operations. Last week, we talked about how AI is changing the design side of remodeling, how ideas move faster, visuals get clear, and clients align earlier with you, your team, your operation, your processes. And so design, that's the front end of the process. We're talking about design, we're talking about visualization and pre-construction. That's where projects get sold. Today's the follow through because great design doesn't protect margins. Operations do. This session is about how AI is being used behind the scenes to spot problems earlier, to help tighten execution, and to help remodelers run more predictable, more profitable businesses. Most remodelers focus on sales growth, and generally design is where projects get sold, right? But operations determine your profit. Operations include how you estimate jobs, how you schedule them, your staff that's involved, how you manage costs, handle your change orders, and just how you communicate internally with your team and with clients. So small inefficiencies in these areas compound pretty quickly. I'm sure some of you guys have seen that already. And so what AI actually does, it doesn't replace experience or intuition, but it does amplify the decision making by analyzing patterns across different jobs, different job types, analyzing patterns across your cost scenarios, your schedules and timelines, and in general behavior across your projects, whether that be financial trends or labor indiscrepancies, whatever. It spots patterns humans typically miss because they don't know what they're looking for. And it does it earlier than when we usually catch them on our own. Remodelers already have a ton of data, right? Typically, though, you just don't use it. AI now uses historical data to forecast risks, to optimize your resources, and to automate repetitive work. That means fewer hours spent chasing information and more time spent making decisions. And so the real shift here is going from reactive operations to predictive, data-driven operations. Big difference in being reactive with your clients than being proactive, right? Same thing with running your whole operation. Reactive versus predictive. Let's define what that means when it comes to why traditional project management fails. This is really the core problem that most remodelers are facing. Traditional project management is reactive in essence. In other words, most remodelers are reacting. They're not really forecasting. Most issues crop up after the damage is already done, leading to cost overruns or mistakes somewhere in the process. Whereas predictive operation is different. Predictive operations mean that you're seeing problems before they hit your timeline or before they hit your margins. And that visibility is what enables AI to help allow for better course corrections and better course corrections done earlier. The fact is, traditional project management reacts to issues after they appear. Traditional project management tools, they show what happened, not what's coming. Whereas a reactive system always feels like you're behind, you're stressed, you're just finding out too late on pretty much everything. Conversely, AI anticipates problems before they happen. In other words, AI is changing the timing, not the responsibility. You're still responsible, right? AI is just an assistant, a tool for you, but now it's letting you get out there ahead of the game. So when we talk about reactive operations, and this is really what most remodelers are stuck in, hopefully you're not one of them, but reactive operations means that problems are discovered after they've already caused the damage. So you're discovering those cost overruns after the job is already bleeding cash. You're noticing margin erosion at month end, which is too late to fix it for that month, and you're not getting that data in real time. Or you're chasing your subs and material costing and estimating manually. So you don't have the ability to recognize those patterns as quickly as AI would, or you're just relying on gut feel instead of real actual data and trends out there. And then on the other side, when we're using AI, and this is what AI enables the best for people, is being predictive in your operations. Predictive operations, they use past data to anticipate problems before they actually crop up again or for the first time. So what we're talking about is being able to forecast your schedule overruns before the job even starts. You see the whole picture in front of you, and you already see that there's something wrong in your cost estimating right from the start before you even have started the job. So now you may be able to help identify those margin leaks pre-project or at least mid-project, and not find those margin leaks at the end of the project after it's already too late and you're over, and now it's costing you or the client or both, and now no one's happy. It can also flag those estimating errors earlier. AI and estimating is just going to get bigger and bigger. Those tools are going to really get dialed in. And then finally, it can help stress test your schedules and your timelines, your crews, how many people you need on each job, and figuring out those labor costs in advance. The point here is simple. AI helps you see what's coming ahead of time. And so let's talk about some core operational areas where AI really creates true return on investment for your operation. AI can help deliver that ROI, that return on investment, where repetition and patterns exist. That's where AI really, really is the best at recognizing patterns and trends. So we're talking about finance, we're talking about estimating, we're talking about scheduling, and even admin duties and responsibilities are prime targets where AI can help you. These aren't like just nice to have kind of categories. They're true margin drivers for your business. As we go through these, I want you thinking to yourself, which one of these would help my business the fastest? Think about where you're at in your business. And as we talk about these, I want you to have some aha moments, hopefully, to say, wow, we can use this. This is really going to help us. So think about that. So the first is financial intelligence. All right, we're talking about AI-powered P&L analysis. This is often one of the biggest aha moments for business owners. Most remodelers look at their P&L once a month at most, sometimes only once a quarter, and that's probably usually just for tax purposes, but they're not really diving into this and looking for true analysis that they can make more efficiency and get some deeper insights on. Your AI can turn your P&L into a decision tool. I've used it for our P&L, so I know how this can be beneficial for you. It's really a way to look at it that where AI reads your financials the way owners wish they could. It connects your jobs, it connects your costs, your outcomes, and it does it all naturally. It's just easy for AI to connect those dots. And so if we were to define this, AI-powered financial intelligence uses accounting and job cost data to analyze profitability trends, to uncover inefficiencies, and to forecast future performance. So it's not just what a report has already reported has happened. This is important because, again, we're talking about being proactive in driving margins higher versus being reactive after those margins have already kind of gotten out of hand on you. And so what can AI analyze in your P&L? So it can look at gross profit percentage by different job types, kitchens versus bath versus additions and so on. All of those are going to have slightly different gross profit percentages, right? Easy for AI to just analyze all that in one fell swoop. Again, we're talking 10 seconds when you can sit there, and pour over all your different job reports for hours, and then try to translate those into a spreadsheet, and then, look at one job versus another. This AI can do it for you in just a split second, really. It also can look at labor and subcontractor imbalances. So It's looking at labor expenses, some subcontractor expenses from job to job of the same job type, but it also can look at it from job type versus job type. And you can see, hey, maybe my labor is kind of out of whack here on all my kitchen jobs for some reason, but it's not out of whack on bathrooms. I wonder why that is. Is it, and then you can kind of dig into that a little more. You can look at overhead creep within your company as well. Are you using too many softwares? Or maybe duplicate software? Are you looking at maybe some AI tools now, but maybe one of your project management tools has already got that built in? It can look at vehicle expenses, and is there any duplication happening there to where maybe you don't need as a whole fleet of vehicles? If you're a bigger operation, maybe you can cut one or two of those out. We're looking at admin labor as well. What all is happening within your office, and does it make sense from a cost versus kind of reward perspective? Like I said, it can look at the job cost variance across different jobs, but also that variance between what it actually cost in the end versus what you estimated. Is everything coming in line at the end of your project? Or do you find at the end of your projects like, wow, we underestimate every single project? That's a margin killer. We know that, right? And then, of course, it's looking at trends over time, not just monthly snapshots, but you can put in your monthly P&Ls from month to month, to year over year. You can put in your annual P&Ls, and you can really get a true picture of the true health of your business year over year, month over month, and find out where some of that leakage might be happening. And then when we talk about the capabilities when it comes to AI in financial intelligence, it can do things like flagging categories that are, out of whack. Your labor costs are too high, or you underestimate the materials, like we've talked about. You can look at your benchmark margins against historical performance. Are your margins slowly dwindling? Or are they slowly increasing? Identifying those benchmark margins against historical performance, month to month, year over year, whatever it may be. Also looking to identify which project types look profitable but actually aren't. I think that might be a real eye opener, because you may think, oh, bathrooms are great. We turn those in 3 days, or maybe you have one of those 7-day bath companies, and you're turning those over really quick, and you think they're super profitable. Maybe they are, and hopefully they are, but maybe they're not. And so it's just a way to look, and just to be sure, to give you that peace of mind to say, yes, we are on target. Everything looks good here. You've kind of given yourself that nod to say everything looks good. The trends are good. The analysis is good. Continue on. And then forecasting, of course, end of quarter profit based on jobs that are in progress. Knowing those jobs that are in progress, where are they going to end up? Are you trending the right way, or are you already trending the wrong way? And how can you get ahead of that by being proactive in that process and not reactive? And then some of the tools, use cases for this. Claude AI, this is a good one. I like this AI tool because it's really the best with numbers analysis. Most people are using ChatGPT these days for almost everything, but each tool does different things a little differently. And I like Claude AI for numbers analysis. It's really good at that. It's known for that. And then Buildertrend has really got a lot of good AI features built into it now. It's got some QuickBooks integration, so you can start crunching numbers for you as well. There's a lot of financial analysis tools out there in the AI world that you can layer on your accounting data, or maybe it's got integrations to bring that in. You've got spreadsheet-based AI models. If you're a smaller firm, you don't want to pay that cost to Buildertrend or one of the bigger tools. You can just upload a spreadsheet, and that QuickBooks spits out for you, and just let it set it to work analyzing. So use what works for your firm, for the size of your firm, for your budget, for the tools that you have. Don't feel like you've got to go out and sign up for every tool or the most expensive tools out there. There's something that will fit for you and your company and your needs. But once you see where profit is leaking, the next step is really preventing that leakage earlier, and that starts in the estimating process. And so here's a project that I've run through Claude AI. The bullet points, from that last slide, we input all of those into this project, and then we ask Claude to analyze the project. based on those bullet points. We just copied those in and said, here, analyze the project on what I've just taught you. And then it's going to give us the results for each of those cost categories, such as labor and subcontractors being over industry standards, maybe. It's also important to remember that these industry standards, and I use that with air quotes to emphasize, they might match your market or they may not. And so that's where your experience and your expertise work hand in hand with AI. Again, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, AI is not replacing you. It's just augmenting your abilities. Think about it as a computer getting an upgraded processor. Your brain just got an upgraded processor because you added AI to your team. And then here is the annual analysis of financial performance overall. This is where AI is helping to identify those operational inefficiencies, those issues that might be compressing your margins, as well as helping to identify strategic opportunities for profitable expansion of your business. Maybe new services, could be new locations, could be adding more team to your staff. And so as you go through an analysis like this, it's going to talk about those labor overruns. It's going to show you the material costs, whether they're within industry norms or not. It can also point out things like, kitchen remodels that specifically tend to have maybe, for example, consistent cost overruns compared to your other remodeling projects. So that can give you some insight in how to improve the estimating for those kitchen remodel projects in the future. If your kitchen remodels tend to always be, coming in on overruns, then you need to figure out why that's happening. Why is it happening on kitchens, but not on maybe basement remodel projects or your additions? Or full home renovations, whatever it may be. So what we're looking to do again is kind of compare projects and see where some of that leakage is, or maybe everything's perfectly in tune, but now you've got that peace of mind to say, hey, I've run AI analysis and I'm doing perfect. Good for you. Maybe you can teach some of the rest of us that as well. And then here's the analysis that continues. Another insight into this particular company's kitchen remodeling projects, and that insight is that kitchens are generating most of this particular company's revenue, but also delivering the lowest margins due to those cost overruns. So it's one thing to say, oh, our kitchens are great. That's where most of our revenue comes from. When I talk to remodelers that we're not working with, and I just ask where their total revenue is, where's that divided up between, and what services, you hear that a lot. Oh, kitchens, that's where most of our revenue is. But do you actually know that could be your lowest margins? It could be due to cost overruns, labor overruns, estimating, whatever the reason may be, or maybe multiple reasons. But it's good to know that, to have that insight to say, man, our kitchens are great in terms of revenue, but we need to fix the margins here as well. So in this analysis here as well, it goes further into giving you ideas on areas that you can improve upon, such as dealing with those cost overruns, or maybe to even focus more on your higher margin products, like the bathroom remodels, due to those higher margins. Bathroom remodels, I know not everyone on here likes to do those, wants to do those, but they are typically high margin. You can charge good money for them. You can put in fine finishes. I mean, we've got to have clients that do $125,000 bathrooms. I don't know who can afford that. Certainly not me, but it exists out there. And so that's going to make for a high margin project. And you're going to spend a lot less time on that project. It's going to go pretty quick. So that's one thing to look at is projects that can go quicker, provide more margin, and that's going to help you be more predictable in your scheduling, your timelines. And then one of the most important factors that I know everyone's worried about is cash flow, and getting those checks cashed as soon as possible, whereas those long projects tend to really draw that out. And then, here this analysis wraps up with an action plan for your business, what areas to diagnose for some quick wins, how to go about implementing a better estimating process, and then some tips for better tracking so that you can better understand your numbers. A lot of remodelers think they're in the design business, and you are, but you're also in the numbers business too. That's really important. So I really highly recommend you do this with one of your projects or a monthly P&L, in P&L. The insights you'll get are going to be pretty eye-opening for you. And like I said in the previous webinar, make sure to use a private and paid account. Don't just go into ChatGPT, without logging in. That's going information could be public. And one other thing you can do too, if you just really want to be safe, is just blur out your company info, your company name, address, things like that. If anyone sees those numbers, I'm not going to know who they're from, so it's not going to matter. I know everyone wants to keep their financials private. That's why I suggest get a paid account with Claude or ChatGPT or both. And we've got paid accounts with all the different platforms because we use each one of those platforms differently, and we want to make sure our information stays private. And then, let's talk about estimating, takeoffs, bid accuracy. As you guys know, as well as I do, these are critical margin protection elements here. Estimating is one of the biggest margin protection points in a remodeling company. You guys know this better than I do. If your estimate is off, everything downstream becomes damage control after that, right? Everything. And so AI assisted estimating is meant to improve your accuracy by comparing current bids against historical data, against actual costs and actual project outcomes, whether it pulls that from the internet or whether it pulls that from the data you've uploaded, that you've been uploading consistently over time. Again, you're in your own private account with Claude or Chat GBT. You've got all of those projects in there. It saves all those projects. So now it has all that information to work from. It's like pulling your whole library of projects and cost and P&Ls from the one source, which is your company, and then being able to analyze that information for you. And so, these bad estimates, they're not going to show up immediately. They typically surface weeks later as labor overruns or change orders happen, or as you start to see margin eroding. AI is going to help you shorten that feedback loop. It's there to make things quicker for you, to help improve accuracy. What AI improves upon is that material quantity accuracy. It helps improve upon those labor assumptions. It also helps subcontractor cost trends show up a little sooner. Are you using more, cost in your subcontractors, less? What's going on with your subs? Because it's typically a little harder to manage those than in-house employees, right? So you want to be looking at that. And then maybe you're estimating consistency across your sales reps. If you have multiple sales reps in your company, you can compare data and say who's going on the most appointments, who's closing the most deals, who has the most accurate projects. And we're going to talk about handoff from sales to PMs, but you can understand a lot. For sales, like we upload sales calls, we upload the proposal meetings, things like that, to see, where we might not be doing a good job of articulating our value. So there's a lot you can do with that. We're going to be talking about sales and marketing next week in that webinar, so I won't go too deep there. When it comes to having multiple people in a role, whether that's estimating, sales, whatever, but especially in estimating, this can be really huge because AI helps standardize your process, and it reduces that. Well, it depends on who quoted it problem. We've all seen that, right? Different people quoting probably get slightly, if not vastly, different outcomes. And so when we talk about the capabilities of AI when it comes to estimating, it helps you compare those estimates against actuals automatically. It's going to flag those scope of projects that are under bid before the contracts are even signed. So that's going to save you some margin or some change order headaches or however you have to deal with that with your client. It's also going to identify line items that consistently get underestimated. Maybe it's by one person, maybe it's by multiple people estimating, but it's going to be able to say, every single project you underestimate the cost of tile or whatever it may be. So that's a huge insight that you can learn from, and that's an easy one to rectify, right? And then it just can really help you standardize takeoffs across similar project types. So that's really helpful. Tools and examples. One thing I'll say about tools right up front is these are different tools that I see out there that I've heard about. I've heard about clients talk about, heard about in forums or Facebook groups. These may be great tools for you. Maybe you're using better tools. So share those in the chat. If you have tools that you're using that you think, other NARI members can benefit from, then by all means share those so that we know what may be some of the best tools out there. Tools I've identified, Stack is really good for AI assisted takeoffs with historical validation behind it. We've all heard of BuildExec, big player in the market. They do cost databases and supplier pricing trends built in. Clear Estimates, House Pro, those are template driven and provide consistency. We talked about House a little bit in the last webinar. House Pro is definitely a step up from that. So if you used House, but you haven't used House Pro, that may be something to look at. And Joist is another AI assisted pricing and proposal logic tool that you can use. So there's a lot of different tools that you can use. Don't rely on the tools I share with you specifically. There could be a lot better ones out there that fellow members are able to advise you on better than I can. And then, here's a BuildExec example. It's a video that they made. I'm just going to let it play and let you listen to the features of their AI product, and then you can decide for yourself if it's a tool that you want to check out.
BuildExec's new AI-powered building assistant who helps you estimate and quote faster, smarter, and with complete confidence. Get your estimates done in a flash with Blue Estimate Generator. Blue quickly creates complete and editable estimates from simple project information that you enter. Complete takeoffs in seconds with the Blue Takeoff Assistant tool. Simply upload your plans and watch as Blue auto-measures, auto-scales, names, and preps your plans for you. Prompt and go with Blue Assembly Assistant, where Blue will quickly build accurate assemblies from a simple text prompt. Get quotes to your clients faster and with fewer mistakes when you use Blue Estimate Reviewer. With this tool, Blue double-checks your estimate and provides personalized recommendations on how to improve it.
Okay, so that's Blue by BuildExec. So that's just one example. So again, my suggestion, check out the different tools and play with them a little bit. Get recommendations from other remodelers and see what works for you. And then start diving in and seeing if it's the perfect fit for your company or not. Next, we'll talk about project forecasting and risk management. I think this is where AI really starts feeling like a superpower. AI forecasting can analyze past project performance to predict where timelines, budgets, or resources are likely to break down. These are real margin killers here, especially when we talk about timelines and budgets. So when we talk about capabilities of AI forecasting, it can predict those schedule overruns. It can identify high-risk subcontractor categories, or if you're using different subcontractors, you might find one that's always, coming in red flagged as a trend, and others that in the same, maybe you use two different framers, and one always, kind of presents some headaches for you, some red flags. So you can identify those high risk categories like that. It can forecast budget drift mid-project, where it sees that you're starting to drift. As you're inputting all your numbers, you can start seeing, wow, I think we're going to end up squeezed a little bit here at the end of this project. And they can also run what if scenarios for you when it comes to staffing or sequencing of your timelines, things like that. Again, tools, just a variety here. Gemini, which is Google's product, free product, is great for data synthesis. So it can really accumulate all that data, run it, and look at scenarios. Buildertrend AI is great for forecasting. Buildertrend has built in a lot of new features in their AI model, so that's really good. Flowcase, that's another good one for AI-powered proposals and similar products like that to make sure that your proposals are on point. And then Alice Technologies, that's one I hadn't heard of, but I found it. It's a construction simulation platform. And it's kind of one of the first in that space of construction simulations. I don't know a lot about it, but I think it's worth checking out if you want to run some sims. That's always great. Using these or any of the other tools that you may be using, it's really, instead of waiting for the job to fall behind, you can see it coming ahead of time. And that's that predictive analysis that we're talking about. And so here is an example of using Gemini. Three, product again. This is, I showed this renovation project previously in our design webinar. Basically, it alerted us to some of the structural and environmental issues that we might be up against, as well as the implications of Telluride's historical district. Obviously, historical districts, they have a lot of hoops and hurdles that you need to jump through. And Telluride's very strict to begin with. And that's pretty common for some of those wealthy ski towns. If you ever want to, start doing remodeling in the ski towns, you're going to be up against more bureaucracy, but you're also going to be looking at a much fatter bank account too, because those projects can be, pretty insane up there, especially Telluride, Aspen, Vail. And then Gemini, here it goes into the prospect of asbestos being present, something that you may not have thought of, but now it brings that up, and then it brings up how Telluride, the city of Telluride wants you to handle that construction waste, and some of the various safety hazards to be aware of in that regard. So that's pretty important to understand. And then finally, Gemini, ask if you want a safety and compliance checklist created. Even if you know all this stuff, it doesn't hurt to have that extra set of AI eyes on your project. It could also be a good teaching experience for any new or inexperienced people on your team, new project managers. This is a great way to teach them and reinforce them code and standards and building permits and things like that. But also you're getting them into AI earlier too, where maybe now you're working on as a team and you can build some momentum behind using AI together. And it's not such a daunting, task that seems so I know, kind of scary at the moment, because AI can, kind of come off that way. Another area that AI can really excel is with change orders, scope control, and your margin protection. This is one of those areas that's often missed. As we know, most remodelers, they don't lose profit because they didn't do the work. They lose profit because the work changed, and then it didn't get captured and billed. And so change orders are where margins can leak the most. Are you charging for everything involved in that change order, or do you just let some of it skip through? I know I'm guilty of it myself. We have scope creep with our clients. We do extra and we just go, we went over, and our margin is going to shrink. We just know it. And so using AI can help identify where that keeps happening so that you can kind of fix that trend and get out in front of it. AI identifies that scope creep, those scope creep patterns, and it's going to help protect those margins by ensuring that every single change gets documented, approved, and then billed for. And all of that really becomes automatic once you start adopting AI into your processes. And so that's what you want to do. Just make it part of your processes instead of accepting that scope creep or accepting that something got missed or didn't get billed for and be, it's not that big of a deal. At some point it's going to be a big deal. Or if you do it enough occurrences of that, and you're like, wow, it wasn't a big deal when it's a couple $100s, but now we see that that's happened 25 times, times a couple hundred, you've just lost $5,000 in that example. So capabilities of AI in this regard, like I said, it can identify those scope creep patterns. It can help you auto-generate those change orders from field notes and photos that you're uploading. It sees what's going on. It's going to understand what needs to change. And of course, this may take a little practice as it learns your model, it learns the documents you're uploading. You're essentially trying to create a template for it to learn from, and it's going to just get better and better. The better you are using AI, it's going to get better and better, but also as AI gets more and more advanced, because we are in the very nascent early stages of where AI can help you right now. It's also going to flag unpaid or delayed approvals. And then finally, predict which clients are likely to push back. If it starts seeing trends like that developing early based on communications, it's going to say, hey, this is a change order that needs to happen, but you might get pushback because of what we've seen. So it's pretty cool how it can take all your communications and field notes and photos and timeline and all that data and synthesize it into basically a final report that says, here, this A, B, and C. whatever it may be. Again, many tools out there. Builder Trend is one we mentioned the most, one of the biggest, best in the industry. Also a little bit expensive, so something to consider where you can look at others as well. I know Builder Trend has really built a lot of AI into their platform, whereas like JobTread, I don't think has really gotten on that bandwagon quite as much yet or at all. Contractor Foreman is another one, and then Joist I know is one I see quite a bit. And so, just having one of these tools give you an AI summary of job activity, what changed this week or this month, it's going to really help tighten your whole entire process. AI can detect those repeated scope adjustments without those signed change orders. So that's what we're talking about, predictive analysis, trying to catch this stuff early. Here's a Builder Trend example that it automatically tracks all activity within a project. It includes, the photos that you've been uploading, the change orders, messages, client communications, more. And I'll go ahead and play this for you here. It's looking at all the different things that you've uploaded, those different photos, any messages, client communications. It's really tying all that together so you don't have to look at a photo and think, oh, well, what was that about? Or where's the email on that? It's able to do all that pretty easily for you by using this activity tracking. You can really generate an editable AI-powered summary that provides a clear overview of all of the important updates, all of the changes that have been made to that project. Really, really a great example that shows how combining AI with your project management is really a good synergy, because a lot of project management tools don't have AI built in, and you're trying to use AI separately. And now you're like, oh my God, I got to, combine all this together, upload it here, there. The way Builder Trend is doing it, building AI into their project management tool, into their client CRM, you're keeping everything together in one spot. So that makes Builder Trend a really popular product. And I know that it was mentioned in the chat several times in the last webinar we did. So it's one to think about there. And then when we talk about back office and administrative automation, as I mentioned before, this isn't about replacing people. It means removing the repetitive tasks that slow everyone down. And so what we're talking about here is, admin is necessary. We know that, right? But it can also be super expensive. AI can help remove some of that busy work, not the oversight. And so in this regard, AI is reducing the administrative workload so that office teams can focus more on oversight and decision making instead of the grunt work, the paperwork. So maybe you don't need as many office personnel, or maybe that person you're thinking about hiring, maybe you introduce AI and now you go, wow, our current staff can handle that. And so, capabilities of AI when it comes to admin, drafting contracts, invoices, change orders, permit and compliance checks, approval routing, client communication summaries. We use that a lot because we want to be very detailed in our communications and try to make sure that we're summarizing everything we're talking about. Nothing gets missed, nothing falls through the cracks. So AI can help summarize, if you sit in a meeting, whole, hour Zoom meeting, we can summarize that whole thing. We can ask it more questions and it gets more detailed in the summary. And that way we have all that information in that client's custom GBT so that we know everything that we've talked about and everything that we're trying to execute in terms of their strategy. And so ChatGPT is a good one. It's great for content. It's great for drafting contracts or proposals, as well as those change orders. It just really speeds things up. Instead of trying to figure that out and spend a half an hour on something, you can probably whip it up in just a few minutes. And again, making sure that you customize it for your voice, for it to say what you want. Don't just take what chat spits out verbatim. It's usually not as dialed in as you wanted. It's not your voice, of course. And some people, might pick up that, hey, I'm just, they're just typing in chat, and that, can feel a little icky at times. Joist is another good one I mentioned before. Podium is good for communications automation. Contractor Foreman, and builds out workflows for you. puts all that together for you. We use Go High Level. It does a lot of builds workflows, email communications, all kinds of stuff. I mean, you could do surveys and forms and contracts and landing pages and all that. So Go High Level is one that's used most in the marketing and advertising industry. I think it's in like almost 190, 200 countries, something like that. So pretty big platform there. And that's why we use it, because most marketers do. And then here is an example from ChatGPT. It's just an example of us asking for an agreement to enter into with a customer who wants to do a remodeling project. Now, I realize most of you already have your contracts dialed in, but it really never hurts to run them through AI and see if there are any holes that you haven't plugged yet, or maybe you're doing a job, across a state border. Maybe that could change a little bit of your contract terms and language, as you drive 5 miles, across the border into a different state. So that's something to think about in terms of your contracts. It can go through each of these, from project scheduling, change orders, insurance liability, liens, termination, things like that. And it can really help you get those dialed in just a little bit better. And that's what you're looking for, just in make improvements. As you look at the sample contract for ChatGPT, make sure you're comparing that with your own contracts. See if it gives you any ideas in terms of different clauses that you want to add in, or maybe to edit. But the reminder here is, don't just let AI write things from scratch for you. Let it edit, clean that up a little bit, and then standardize what you already do. An example of this is I'm currently having AI revise my trust and will to add in some new clauses, some new beneficiaries. And I've literally been going back and forth with chat on this, just day after day, little by little, just kind of chipping away at it, just revising suggestions it gives me. And then giving more revisions, and more questions to the revisions it gives, adding in other things that just pop up, or maybe, chat suggests something. And I just kind of really just keep peeling this trust agreement apart layer by layer, like an onion, just going in as deep as I can. You do that with an attorney, and that's going to cost you thousands of dollars. This way I get it exactly. I'm able to tell it everything about me, my dependents, and all that stuff. And then I can just take it to my attorney and say, hey, just give this one look over and see if there's anything wrong with it. It saves you a lot of time, a lot of money too. And so remember too that, especially with ChatGPT, because it's really not one of the best products out there. That's my opinion. That's the opinion of a lot of marketers. And there's a lot, there's some stuff out there in the news on it I won't get into, but it's not just about one prompt input and getting one prompt output. Really need to massage your inputs in order to get the output that you're looking for that is as perfect as you can get it. So you really have to have that discourse, that conversation back and forth when it spits something out, whether it's a simple blog or whether it's a contract or a change order or whatever. Ask it to go deeper on this and ask it to go deeper on this. And when it gives you suggestions at the end of the prompt, say, yes, do that for me too. And your chat conversation can get multiple pages long to get to what you finally want, but it's worth it. You can also use AI for writing or refining your SOPs. I know Monica on the call today, we talked about this, where we're both revising all of our SOPs, just completely rewriting them, getting it into a format that we want, really getting those dialed in. We have over 2,000 SOPs. And so it's taken forever, but we're just doing it one by one, chipping away at it, little by little. Communications with vendors, you can use AI for that. Speed that up, create some templates for it maybe. Communications with clients, maybe create some templates there that you can use that sound natural, but they'll work for any, situations like updates in the project. Just wanted to let you know this is where we're at in the project. Framing's just finished, you're getting an inspection, and what comes next. You don't want to have to type that out every time. You can have a template for that. That's easy stuff. It's not personalized. We're not talking about a personal conversation back and forth. We're talking about easy ways to use templates. And one thing I'll repeat again, though, is to make sure you edit those outputs, make them your own voice, especially in those personal communications with clients. We've had clients email us long dissertations of ideas and thoughts and whatnot, and we immediately know that it's AI. It's not from their actual voice of the client. They've even called us by the wrong name, a name that no one in the company has. And so, you don't want to make those mistakes. That's where you lose a little bit of trust, a little bit of that relationship. You're building relationships with your customers. And you want them to think that it is a real relationship. It's not, Siri talking to them. So take your time with that. If you're doing this for yourself or just doing some AI for research or using it to analyze stocks or investments like I do, then you can be quick and to the point. But if you're using AI to communicate with your clients, you definitely want to have a different level of oversight and control with that. And then labor productivity and crew performance analytics. This is really one of the biggest misses. This is a great use case for AI, and in my opinion, one of the most valuable ones. AI compares planned versus actual labor hours by the crew involved on that project, by the task, by the project type. Why does this matter? Because labor is typically the largest uncontrollable variable in remodeling margins. And AI is exceptionally good at finding patterns here. Again, AI is great with pattern and trend analysis. AI compares planned versus actual labor costs. It can flag productivity drift before overtime or those extra labor hours start blowing up your margins. And this isn't about blaming crews either. It's just about scheduling the right people on the right jobs and then trying to figure out who is the best person for the job, which crew is working better, and then how you can just help them be better at their jobs, and it makes them better at their jobs, at their careers, and it makes your company better as well. So it's really about everyone just getting 1% better every day. That's all we're shooting for. We're not looking to replace people. We're trying to weed out the inefficiencies and make people and processes better. You could also do variance detection, get those early warning alerts where you're starting to drift off of the norm. Crew productivity benchmarking, again, who's taking longer to complete projects. We do that as well. You got, say, 3 people in one department doing the exact same thing, but across different clients. And we notice that one gets everything done and the other usually does, and the other is always 30, 40 tasks behind every week, then we find that instantly in a snap of a finger, and then we can fix that. So it's been great for helping us find those inefficiencies and just really, using that efficiency scoring by task, by project, by client, by anything you want really to see who's scoring the best and who can use a little more mentoring, a little more training. Tools, again, Buildertrend's great with labor analytics, AI overlays for that. There's lots of AI models that that are built into timesheets and job logs. You probably have seen some of those. And then if you're just using simple spreadsheets, we have clients that just use simple spreadsheets, but you can still upload those, and AI is going to find the trends and patterns that you're asking about. Business owners, I find, typically care more about labor than almost anything, but there are really few talks, TED Talks, whatever resources out there that address it directly. And so this is something that can really help you in terms of labor. Here's an example using Claude AI to analyze a simple spreadsheet of planned versus actual labor hours on a remodeling project. The input prompt here is to analyze the spreadsheet by crew, by task, by project type. And then you just simply ask it for a labor productivity and crew performance analytics. And then here's the analysis that it produces. It reports on total projects analyzed, planned versus actual hours, any variances involved. In other words, it's trying to find which numbers aren't matching up as well as they should be. And so this shows up here in projects that were over budget versus also telling you, which ones might be under budget, which should give you some additional information based on who was involved on those projects and what may have been done differently or more efficiently. This is noted here in the crew efficiency ratings on the bottom here. There may be real world variables that you need to take note of, that such as change orders or other scenarios that may have thrown your project off course, like, permitting or something like that AI is not going to be aware of. So again, take it with a grain of salt, what AI is telling you. You got to combine it with your real world boots on the ground kind of knowledge with what AI is just thinking about in terms of patterns, predictions, trends, things like that. And remember, also, if you're not getting the exact outputs that you want, just ask the AI platform to just keep delving further into a certain topic and metric, and it will do it. I mentioned that before, but treat it like you're having a conversation and not just asking one thing and then accepting that one answer. Have a conversation with your custom AI model, and you'll continue getting more and more from it. That's typically some really good valuable information. And I told you before, like, mine's custom. I make it sarcastic. I like sarcastic humor. I like to be goofy and funny, and just I like to have fun with my day and not stress too much. And so I have fun with my AI. It cracks me up on more than one occasion. And so that makes it fun, and you're going to use it more if you get it to do that. You can do that with chatbots too. We'll talk about those next week, but chatbots on your website, you can make those as humorous or as plain vanilla as you want. You give it your own voice, and it learns it, and then it can run with that. So there really is a lot you can do in that regard. Sales to operation handoffs. This is really a powerful topic, and another one that's usually under discussed. This is where you want to use AI to quality check the job before kickoff by reviewing what was sold, the contract versus the scope of work versus the assumptions being made, and then comparing it to what your operations needs in order to deliver that margin and profitability that you're expecting. It's easy to see why this matters. Many margin leaks happen before a job even starts. And so we're talking about oversold scopes of work, unrealistic timelines, incomplete assumptions. And remember too that AI can review signed contracts for red flags or any risk signals before the project kickoff. It can flag missing assumptions or inadequate or vague allowances, as well as any timeline mismatches that it sees, that this knows that your timeline is not going to match the scope of this project. And you might find that out after the project, but if you start using AI, you can find out ahead of time. This is really going to help reduce friction between your sales team, between your design team, and then passing it off to your PMs that really kick everything off for you. So a lot of capabilities here: missing info detection, the kickoff agenda, auto creation, client expectations scripting, risk scoring, and then tools for that: Jobber again, Buildtrend, Procore, HubSpot, Go High Level that I mentioned we use. I think this is going to land well for your team, because now everyone in the room, has probably felt the pain in this handoff process, right? Or sometimes thereafter, that pain is going to show up. And so what you want to do here with your team is just reframe AI as a relationship fixer. It's helping you bridge the client across different roles within your company and processes. It's not just a tool. It's really a bridge in that relationship as well. And then here's an example of a contract review. I copied this video from Packly, which can help you with AI contract reviews. It ties in with a WordPress plugin that it uses, so direct changes can be made to your document in real time. So again, I'm just going to let this play, and you can listen to the narrator go through the individual steps of how they do this here,
which we will review using the Packly Microsoft Word plugin. In this video, we will demonstrate the AI capabilities of Packly, which can assist in reviewing and redlining contracts received from external parties. You're viewing a demo services agreement, which we will review using the Packly Microsoft Word plugin. To begin, we select Review a Contract and assign a name to this contract. After that, we select the type of contract, which in this case is a service agreement. Here, you'll notice an option to select different playbooks. The number of playbooks you can choose from depends on the contract type. This feature is customizable, allowing you to have dedicated playbooks for specific purposes. For example, you could have a services agreement playbook for general services or a services agreement for professional services, like consulting or advisory work. In this case, we'll select the vendor contract playbook and initiate a review. Each playbook can contain any number of positions, which can be customized or expanded as needed. Essentially, these positions act as a checklist to ensure that the agreement is reviewed in a consistent fashion. As you can see, there are 19 positions across different areas in this Packly default playbook for services agreements. You can, of course, modify and supplement this default, or come up with your own playbook, a process we'll cover in a separate video. The review process typically takes between 3 to 5 minutes, but may require more time for lengthier documents. We'll pause the video quickly and we'll resume once the review is complete. Once the review is complete, you'll notice that the AI has evaluated all the positions as either compliant or non-compliant. Let's delve deeper into the first position. This position indicates that we, as the client, should not provide any indemnities to the supplier. The AI assessed that the position is compliant and provided some reasoning. Importantly, it has highlighted all relevant clauses used in its assessment. First, it has identified the supplier and client from the recital and has also identified the general indemnity obligation. Since the general indemnity obligation is given by the supplier, Rainmaker Systems, in favor of the client, HP, the AI has determined that the contract is compliant with this playbook position, that the client should not be giving indemnities. Taking a step back, the use of an AI-powered playbook provides a significant advantage. It ensures that your entire team reviews similar contracts using the same approach whilst increasing efficiency with AI. Which we will review using the Packly Microsoft Word plugin.
Okay, so that just gives you an example of how you can use AI tools there. Again, like I said, most of you guys probably have your contracts dialed in with your clients, with suppliers, vendors, whatever. But it just gives you some ideas how you can use a tool like that and say, oh, wow, maybe this is going to help me really dial in my SOPs or other agreements or any kind of contracts you have. But there's just so many options there to increase AI efficiency, to make things go quicker, to really help you cover all your bases, to combine your human intuition with that AI expertise. One of the next areas that you can use AI in is that exception-based management. Exception-based management means you don't manage everything every day. You only step in when something is outside the normal range, i.e. an exception, right? In my opinion, this is solid gold for a business owner who is focused on efficiency. I'm one of those. I don't want to be inundated with the minutia of day to day. I want it all running. Let me know when there's exception, when you need my help, where I can jump in. But otherwise, I'm not looking to ask, how are we doing across 42 different metrics in our company? And what I want to be asking is, what changed that shouldn't have changed? And then that's when you can drill down further into that process, the AI involved, maybe the different questions you should be asking. Ultimately, are you trying to improve one step at a time, one process at a time, and one tool at a time? That's the goal. And the bottom line is that owners don't want more dashboards, right? They want fewer surprises. And so that's what that's the goal with exception-based management. And so when you're looking at exception-based management, we're looking for things like anomaly detection, trend detection, root cause suggestions, action summaries. Tools for that are, ChatGPT, Zapier. Zapier is great for connecting different software programs that don't have an AI integration, so you can zap from one to the other. We use this quite a bit to bring stuff into our Go High Level CRM that may not have an integration to it. Jobber is another one. And then HubSpot, of course, is a really popular one out there as well, especially when it comes to marketing. One thing to remember is that AI only alerts you when something breaks a normal pattern. The result here, should be no more daily digging through reports. You're just looking for those exceptions. Owners manage by exception, not by micromanagement. What we're trying to reframe this is as less noise and more signal. Now, here's an example of ChatGPT where I've uploaded a performance report for a remodeling project. We're looking for chat to reporting anomalies, trends, anything that you really want to dive deeper on in terms of financial analysis, labor cost anomalies, things like that, as well as potential discrepancies with reporting timelines, inspection of any trends that AI may have found, or doing a deeper dive into the scope of complexity of the job versus the timeline and see if it all adds up. And then at the end, it gives you a report summary as well as recommendations, for this project or future projects. It's about getting more granular, going deeper, in other words, on trying to find things that you can fix and ways to become more efficient. As we all know, efficiency means more margins equals more revenue. And then some more tools for remodelers here as we start winding down. Like I mentioned before, you don't need to use every tool out there. The goal is picking one workflow and improving it one tool at a time. And so when it comes to estimating and takeoffs, I know there are a ton of tools out there. You all know these better than I do. So feel free to put those in the chat, share with others what you're using, what you feel are the best estimating takeoff tools to consider. I know House Pro has been popular for those that use House Pro, AI-powered proposals, estimates, clear estimates, fast, accurate remodeling estimates with a lot of ready-made templates I know. Stack is another one I'm not too familiar with, but I know they do cloud-based AI estimating and takeoff software for larger projects. And then Joyce has a mobile AI estimating and invoicing platform. So improving your estimating and takeoffs is really one of the best in terms of high ROI, low risk starting points. If you want to dive into some AI and you haven't yet, it's easy to kind of navigate those changes. And then the feedback loop for that is usually pretty immediate as well. And then scheduling and project management, AI excels at sequencing complexity, especially for remodeling firms that are running multiple projects at once. There are many tools out there, again, for this builder trend. I've mentioned before, Jobber, Procore AI is a good construction management tool that covers pre-construction to project closeout, like most of them do. And then supply chain and materials AI tools. This is where you can really gain benefits from AI in terms of forecasting shortages and price shifts, or reducing emergency sourcing, helping with some of those supplier negotiations. PlanGrid, I think it used to be called Autodesk, or they've been integrated somehow. It detects design issues affecting your material orders. Procore AI that I mentioned, BuildExact that I've mentioned, also does material estimating. And then customer communications and experience. I've talked a little bit about that. No surprise here, but faster updates equals happier and more calm clients, right? So AI can help ensure consistency in this regard, as well as reducing project management interruption. Podium, has the AI chat bots for that homeowner messaging. I was talking about chat bots. Ruby's a virtual receptionist handling missed calls and lead intake. We've got someone right now trying Ruby to just kind of automate all their appointment bookings. They're a roofer, so they just high volume appointment booking, not like a remodeler, which is a much more personal conversation, I realize. And then contract foreman, it's kind of a central dashboard for your project updates and client communication. And then job site tracking and documentation. With good AI job tracking, photos and notes become the data. All your communications kind of all get rolled into this, so you can connect activity on your job site to the outcomes. Better records means less reliance on your memory. So OpenSpace AI, HoloBuilder, and Racken are all good to check out there if your AI tool or your CRM or project management tool doesn't handle that. And then finally, challenges with AI and how to overcome them. And the first thing to remember is that AI adoption isn't plug and play. There will be some challenges in rolling out some new and innovative technology, but the risks are manageable with structure. Most failures will come from rollout, not the tech itself. And so in general, there are three common blockers to AI adoption: fear, bad data, and change management. If you handle these three correctly, AI becomes a tool that your team is going to actually like to use. Let's talk about overcoming fear. Many teams fear that AI will replace human jobs. So you want to reframe it as augmentation, not replacement. So an example, AI creates jobless reports automatically. Now PMs can focus more on the client relations instead of the paperwork and extra time it takes to create those reports. Focus on using AI on only one workflow at a time. Don't try to integrate too many different AI software applications onto too many different processes of yours. Focus on improving one area of your business at a time. Share real examples of time saved. So once you improve a workflow, that of course you're measuring against the old process, right? Make sure to share those victories with your team. Give them incentivization to want to secure their own victories while learning and mastering AI, which means celebrating those individual wins, like faster approvals or more accurate bids or estimating. Start with small pilot programs and then celebrate those small wins one by one. People don't resist AI because it's bad for business. They resist it because they think it's being forced on them and they think it's meant to replace them. A quick story I want to share is an agency owner friend of mine had someone on their team that found AI use case scenarios for almost everything that that person was doing in their job. And because they knew how efficiency minded their CEO was, they had no fear of like working themselves out of a job. That agency owner, who's a good friend of mine, he was so impressed with what that gal had accomplished. He not only gave her a promotion, but he made her the new director of AI operations, a new position he created for her because she found so many ways to be more efficient. And so, being rewarded for working smarter, not harder, is the goal here. And then the next challenge to overcome is ensuring data quality. AI depends on accurate data. Poor inputs lead to bad predictions. As I've said before, bad inputs creates bad predictions, bad outputs. So, if your job data is inconsistent, AI is not going to be magic with it. It can only work with what you give it. So some steps to ensure, better data quality is, audit all your existing data, your photos, your hours, your materials, your client notes and communications, kind of everything there. And then standardize your inputs, your checklists, your labeled photos. Standardize everything you're going to be collecting, but also inputting to AI. And so what I mean by that is come up with a system. Make sure all of your uploadables, as well as your prompts are all standardized, that you have consistent, repeatable, reliable processes. You can also start by using AI tools to clean data automatically, like removing duplicates, flagging missing entries, things like that, before you even start actually measuring that data. And so this includes training staff on the importance of clean data. Again, garbage in equals garbage out. Train your teams on why this actually matters. And then weekly data quality checks, with your office and your admin staff, just to make sure everything's going good and the system's running as it should. It doesn't have to be perfect; it just has to be consistent. So, example would be standardizing your photo uploads to reduce work caused by missing measurements or unclear documentation. This could all go into Google Drive folders that are consistent. There's a number system, there's a naming system for all your photo files. We do that with all of our client photos. Keep them all in one place. It's all standardized. There's no ever, looking around. Where's this photo? Where's that at? It's all very easy to find. And AI, we could send AI straight to that Google folder and give it access and get some really, really quick answers or solutions pretty quickly and efficiently. And then there's change management. Adopting AI requires careful rollout to avoid that resistance. AI adoption will fail without ownership. There's no doubt about it. So start with one AI tool, one for scheduling or one for estimating, whatever it may be. Choose a team champion, a project manager, an office manager, or even a marketing manager if you have that. We'll talk about that more in the next topic. And then make sure you're providing hands-on training, videos, live demos, lunch and learns even. Try to make this whole process interactive as well as making it fun. Now, if you have a big enough team, you can come up with competitions, awarding some prizes, or, catered lunches for the whole team just to make this fun and interactive. Collecting feedback early is key. Adjust your course as needed, but really pay attention to the results you're getting or not getting and adjust as needed. Tie adoption to incentives, bonuses for hitting those efficiency targets. Nothing incentivizes employees like some cold hard cash or maybe some extra time off or whatever it may be. Make sure there's an end goal or some sort of incentive that your team is trying to reach a goal and be incentivized for. The bottom line is AI adoption fails when it becomes just another thing to do. It succeeds when it replaces something that people already hate doing. So you're making their life easier for them. So here's an action plan to get started with AI and operations. First thing is, identify your biggest margin leak. Is it estimating? Is it labor? Is it change orders? Is it your overhead expenses? And then pick one AI use case, P&L analysis, takeoffs, scheduling forecasts, whatever it may be, one use case. Don't try to do multiple things at once. Just tackle this one at a time. and then run a 30-day pilot. Track the time saved, track your margin impact. Make sure that all these results are shared with your whole team. You're going to get much quicker and much stronger buy-in once people start seeing the magic of AI. It should become undeniable that you will achieve gains in efficiency as well as accuracy. And then last is to expand intentionally, starting with finance, maybe moving to estimating, moving to scheduling, moving to client communications, whatever that order is for you, that's what's going to matter most. And then treat each one of these as a separate category and try to, improve each one of these categories one at a time with one tool at a time. Early adoption, clean data, and thoughtful change management are the keys to unlocking operational efficiency and sustainable growth for your company. Predictive AI is transforming remodeling operations already, and it's going to continue to do so as AI gains more popularity as well as more competency and complexity in the use cases. From forecasting risk and optimizing crews to automating repetitive work, AI empowers remodelers to work smarter, not harder. That's the goal. Progress is not about avoiding challenges. It's about figuring out what is working for your team and what's worth pushing for. So I hope that's been a load of information for you. Hopefully it's not overload, but you'll have the PDF for this. We've covered a lot of ground, a lot of stuff I could go into deeper. We've already covered a lot of time too. Let me know if you have any questions. I think that we should have some time for a few questions here, Plamena, right?
Yes, Bob, thank you very much. Do leave your contact information on the screen. Some people are asking for your contact info in the chat here. And I want to remind you that next week is going to be kind of Bob's sweet spot when we talk about marketing and sales. So he's going to have a lot to share with you in next week's session. But to cover a couple questions here, Bob. So Baron asks, so I'm the only one in the office that works in the office currently. I do all the estimating and most of the project management. I do all the admin work. I've been interested in finding a way to use AI to help her proposal writing and estimating, but I do not know where or how to start. I barely have enough time to do these items myself. And if I need to then find time to feed all my past work into AI so it can learn, I'm not sure I would find time to do this. Is there another way? What can you recommend, Bob?
Easy. One word, Baron, outsourcing. You can choose to do this two ways. You can keep doing it the way you're doing it, which is not learning, not having the time to learn. You want to take your company forward, but you're never going to find the time. So you're either going to do it at nights and lose time with your family, maybe, or you're going to be working weekends, losing time again with your family or friends. Or you can go the other route and say, you know what, I'm going to hire a virtual admin. I'm going to go online. I'm going to look at some of the admin agencies out there, and I'm going to hire someone for $5, $10 an hour and let them start doing this. I'm going to give them a use case, and then they can do it. They can document. They can create an SOP for you, and they can build all this out for you. And it could be a short-term project where you give them one thing at a time and they build it out, or you can find that you've got someone that's so useful to you that you say, hey, do you want to just be my permanent admin? I can give you 20 hours a week, 30 or 40, whatever, but your time is money. And so if you don't have time to do this, you're never going to do it. Every small operation, solo entrepreneur runs into this. I ran into this. I was doing everything. And frankly, I got sick of working 70 or 80 hours. And I thought, at some point I have to build a team. You can be a one-person operation all your life and be happy there. But you are just working a job at that point. It's just you get to, you got a cool boss that gives you time off if you really can afford it. Or you can choose to build a team. And so I highly recommend that, because maybe it's gonna cost you a few $100s here or there, but it's gonna allow you to grow your company and take on more jobs that pay you thousands of dollars. So you're exchanging pennies for quarters by doing that. So that's my recommendation. Try to think in terms of growth and taking everything off your plate that you can, because what I've learned and how I've been able to grow my team to over 20 people is everything that I do, could someone do that 80% as well as I do? And what is their pay rate? If I'm paying someone 10 or 15 or $20 an hour, then by all means, they should be doing that because I am worth way more than $20 an hour. And I don't have any, every business owner on this call should be able to say that, to say, oh, yeah, heck yeah, I'm worth more than that. I'm worth $250 an hour or whatever it is you charge or whatever you figure out your hourly rate is. If you're doing anything that is below that, then stop. You have to stop and just let someone else do that. That's my I guess hardcore advice.
But we've got another one that I think I can answer really quickly. If we have a paid account with ChatGPT, do we need to worry about anything uploading our contract for it to analyze and or edit? And yes, if you want to keep your information private, you can click on an option to make sure that ChatGPT is not using it to teach itself and in other answers. So you definitely want to make sure you select that private option. Anything else that you want to add to that, Bob?
No, it's, you just have to be careful. Paid accounts, the way to go. Blurring out your company name, things like that, are always a safe way to go. And then using that private option. But yeah, just, make sure you're protecting your data. The private accounts, they say none of that data gets out there. I don't know if I ever, trust technology or technology companies. 100%. We've seen them, belie people's trust before. I used a password login company and they had a breach and they lied about it at first. All of our passwords are out there. And I had 200 different logins with them. And they first lied to me and lied to all their customers. And then they finally came out with, oh, well, we did have a breach and you should change all your passwords. So I changed all my passwords and then, replace that company because it's just dishonesty and they can't be trusted. So I don't know if I ever put 100% trust in even a private account. So we blur out anything sensitive, any of client name, our name, contact information that can, be, connect the dots with. So that's just a way to be on the safe side, to really protect yourself from a legal standpoint. I am not an attorney. I'm not dispensing financial or legal advice though.
Yeah, speaking of legal advice, yeah, like you said, if you're generating contracts or getting any legal advice from ChatGPT, make sure to run it by an attorney before you actually follow through. There is no replacement for a qualified attorney on any of that stuff. ChatGPT and AI and all these tools can help, but in legal matters, the attorneys are always best as your last look at everything. So there's a question about CRMs here and which CRMs work well or best with AI for small design build remodeling company. I think that's a really difficult question to ask. There's a lot of them out there. I mean, there's like total remodeling company management software, like you had mentioned, Builder Trend a couple of times. We have a NARI industry partner, which is kind of on the cutting edge of remodeling management as well, called JobTread. So there's a lot of those types of systems. What I'd encourage you to do is I'm going to put a link in the chat to our NARI community. So it's basically a place where NARI members can connect. You can ask each other questions. So if you're looking at kind of bringing a CRM on board, that's a really good place to ask our members of what's worked for them, what they'd recommend, what they wouldn't recommend. Really good place to start a discussion. I'm putting a link to that right now. If you're a member, you'll be able to log in and start a post on this. Bob, anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a great idea, Plemena. The NARI community is, it's where you can get so much information. I know in chat people have recommended different tools, but you may not see it as the chat goes by and it's quick and this is a 1 hour. But go into the NARI community and say, I'm a small design build firm and I'm looking for the best, software for this or that will match my budget and see what other people are using, because it's a great community of everyone willing to share and share what's working for them. And so I would highly suggest using that community more and really sharing with each other, the trials and tribulations you went through, the softwares you've tried, the AI you've tried, the CRM, anything and everything that, there's so many in this community. there's someone out there that's went through everything that you are going through and have yet to go through. I do that, and with my own agency, I network with another about 100 or so agency owners. There's someone has went through what you're asking about. So ask your community, and I guarantee that that can be the best resource possible and one of the best benefits of being with NARI.
And Bob, we do have two more questions. I think after that we'll have to cut off the questions. Are you okay on time to maybe address a couple more?
I'm okay, sure.
Okay. So David asks, we're a smaller modeler, 3 employees, and I've never used AI for anything. What would be the best option to start my learning curve?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's very individual. I think the easiest way to start is with like content or something like that. Just playing around with ChatGPT, or take one of your monthly P&Ls or even your annual P&L. Scrub out the any sensitive data, or don't scrub out the numbers because it can't analyze without those. Scrub out your company name or anything like that, and upload it and say, Tell ChatGPT, tell them you're new at it, and you don't even know where to start. And ChatGPT is going to come back and say, "Oh, well, welcome to the game," and I'm glad you're getting started. It's going to start developing a personality. So, again, I highly recommend a paid account. I think it's maybe 15, 18 a month or something for ChatGPT. But easy things are like content, contracts, client communications. You need to type an email to a client about, the schedule's adjusting. Just run it through chat really quick. Instead of you spending 15 minutes on it, you can get it out, and output in like a minute. If you like photography or videos, and like I like messing with that. So, make a, upload a photo and make it come to life with Grok. Grok can take a real photo and turn it into a 5-second video. I think they're up to 10 seconds now. I saw latest update. Or, take your dogs like I did last week and turn them into superhero dogs. Play with it, have fun with it. But those are the easiest things. Then you can start diving into estimating and takeoffs and things like that. Or, financial analysis could be a little more complex, and maybe you don't want to start there. But you can start basic too, by uploading that P&L, just saying, "Hey, analyze this and give me some information." And then it gives you information. Maybe you don't have to, maybe it's nothing to act on, but now you're like, "Oh, wow, I used it and I've gained some knowledge. I learned something today." I mean, that's my goal, is to wake up every day and say, "I learned one thing today. I've done something new. I've learned something new. I've got some new useless fact to store in my memory bank." So just, make sure it's fun and something that you like. If you hate financials, then don't start with financials, because you're going to be like, "Oh, that wasn't very fun." And you may see some numbers that you may not like. So then that may turn you off even more. So stick with something you like and something that you can have a little bit of fun with is my recommendation.
Thanks, Bob. And just last one, I think you probably answered this, so you could just reiterate it, but would you fully trust maintaining quality control when using AI, or is that a responsibility to split with AI? I think you've,
Yeah, I've covered that a couple of times, right? Absolutely. It's you work together in synergy. It takes your expertise, your experience, your intuition, and then AI is just a complement. AI is just a tool. It's not another person. Even if you've got Optimus, the robot, sitting next to you later this year, I think Elon said they're going to come out with. It's just a tool. It's just to help augment your data, to find those trends and to be predictive, to help you maybe with accuracy, maybe things you're missing. But it is just a tool. It's just to help you. So don't rely on it. Don't ever take an output, whether it's a financial output, a contract that you had it create, whatever, the revocable trust and living will that I'm creating for myself. I'm not going to take that and go to a notary and sign it. I'm going to still give it to my attorney and say, "Review this." It's going to cost me whatever to review it, but it's not going to cost me 10x that for him to have made it, and all the back and forth communication that it would have taken. So, take AI with a grain of salt. It's there to help you. It is not there to replace you in any way, shape, or form.
Well, thank you very much, Bob. We really appreciate you donating your time to educate our members. We really, really value industry partners like Home Remodeler SEO who, give their expertise and their time for free to better the industry. And I did put Bob's email address in the chat in case you needed marketing help.
I appreciate everyone that attended today, that sacrificed time out of their day to be here. I hope I was able to give a lot of value. I love this stuff. I love the AI. If you just need guidance on AI, you can reach out, marketing help, anything. I'm here to serve the industry. And so I appreciate everyone being here, and I hope I've been able to give a lot of value. And I look forward to seeing everyone next week on our final webinar in the series on sales and marketing.